don't know if my experience really depicts a transparent or not human figure that usually comes to mind when thinking of a ghost, but I don't know what else to call it. The whole thing is inexplicable, I guess. When we moved into this area, no one had built a home on this particular plot, like ever, so we anxiously awaited for construction to wrap up so we could move in, excited to be in a spacious, brand new home, never lived in by anyone. The time came and we quickly moved in and set everything up. Everything was so bright, shiny, full of dreams for the future. It was the beginning of our lives together. Everything was perfect. Now I had heard stories from other people in the area, things whispered about in private amongst trusted friends. My friend's family was from the area, a few blocks away, and growing up I heard them talk about some things they'd encountered. I listened and didn't doubt what they saw, but it was safe to say I forgot all about it. This was my friend's eccentric aunt. Who knows what she was into? I heard them, but never really registered that these were actual things that had happened, or things I needed to worry about. So, back to moving into our new home. The stories that I'd heard 15 years ago, they didn't come to mind. We got all set up, and the first little while was blissfully peaceful. A place all to ourselves. Thinking about wedding planning and such. At first, it was just a loud bang in the middle of the night. We chalked it up to a new house, settling, something shifting in the cupboards. Then it started to become something that we couldn't explain away. The previously locked and checked back door would be heard, the lock clicking as it was unlocked, and then slowly swung open. As the months went on, it became bolder and bolder. My fiancé and I would have friends over for dinner and a movie. They'd stop eating or pause the movie to ask, "Who's upstairs?" As heavy, painfully slow footsteps moved around above our head, clearly heard by all. It sounded like a person wearing large, heavy work boots was walking over the wood floors, like a man heavy-set. They just paced from room to room and through the halls. Sometimes the click of a door handle opening would also be heard. It walked further into the room, and something would be knocked over, slamming to the floor. Of course, the guys would run upstairs, only to find that nothing was there, and no one. Our friends would seem on edge for the rest of the night, eager to leave after. The noise from the second floor carried on throughout the evening. If we were upstairs and in bed, it sounded like someone was rifling through our kitchen cupboards and pantry, pot clanging, boxes shifting. It was very loud and intentional. But as soon as you went downstairs to investigate, the noise would stop. If you were in bed upstairs, the footsteps would slowly creep up the stairs. One step would creak, just as heavy and just as slow. Some nights, my heart was beating out of my chest because it would make its way to the top of the stairs, and it was as if the owner of the heavy boot steps would walk through my bedroom door any second. Talk about anxiety. As it carried on through the months, any overpowering feeling of being watched, it appeared. There was just a heaviness to the atmosphere in the home, which was never present before, not in our relationship anyway. It felt so thick. One week I had to leave on a trip with my fiancé staying behind. He was in the shower on my first night away, and something screamed at him. He said it was so loud and ugly, he hit the floor. It sounded like it was coming from every direction. He stayed at our friend's place for the rest of the week, refusing to go back home. Something else happened, but he never wanted to talk about it. When I was home alone at night, I'd be tucked into bed reading with my dog sleeping at the end of the bed. I'd suddenly get this overwhelming feeling that someone was watching me from the darkest corner of the room, where the closet was. I'd ignore it and continue reading. My dog would suddenly jump up from a deep slumber, and he'd just stand there, staring into the corner intently, the same place I felt I was being watched from. He was a timid dog who never barked. For that first year, I didn't think he even had a voice. He was so quiet. But he let out a loud, scary, alerting of actual danger growl, and his hair would stand straight up. He backed his little body into my foot as if he was trying to protect me. Eventually, the feeling would pass, and he'd lay back down and go back to sleep. I thought that ignoring whatever was happening was the best way to deal with it. Give it no attention. It sorta came to a head one bright autumn day. Our upstairs bedrooms have large windows that let in a ton of natural light from all sides. They were open all day. The sun was low but so bright in the sky, and it filled every corner of the house. I went upstairs to charge my phone, check emails, and I got sidetracked with a quick iPhone game. I was laying horizontally across the bed, facing the door to the hallway, when slowly this blacker than black, very large and very tall figure slowly and silently glided through the middle of the hallway. It was not like a shadow. It was like it absorbed 100% of the light. I had seen it clearly. It looked like it was wearing a large, wide-brimmed flat-top hat with a heavy, long jacket down to the ankles. It was pure black, with a crisp outline against the brightly lit walls. It moved left to right, past the door, and straight into the bathroom. My heart skipped a beat. I felt like the air left the room and my lungs. My mind went blank. What the hell was that? I lay there in silence. My fiancé was busily cooking dinner downstairs. I could hear him, but I was too afraid to move. I processed what I had just seen and leapt off the bed, went tearing down the stairs. My parents had actually heard the thing in the house. That's when we brought our minister in. We had a house blessing and warming, and for a while, things were actually quieting down. Several months passed, just enough for us to let our guard down, I guess. However, things between me and my fiancé started to shift. We decided to take a break, and he moved out. Then this presence came back with vengeance, like our minister suggested it would. It became even louder, even stronger, and the feeling of being watched was intense. During this period, it started to throw things across the kitchen into the dining room. Several heavy objects scattered in a 20-foot-long trail. One morning, I found the countertops and the top of the refrigerator cleared, as if someone cleared off a desk in one aggressive swipe, flinging contents everywhere. The back door would be found open nightly, despite having the door and the lock changed or checked and rechecked. During intense thunder and lightning storms, this thing seemed to get stronger. It made more noise all throughout the night. It scared the hell out of my 13-year-old sister, who only wanted to spend her weekends with me. She woke up to hearing and physically feeling the vibrations from the footfalls as it was pacing around her bed. One night, it felt as if someone heavy sat on the edge of my bed. The springs actually made a strained noise, and I felt the bed shift. My pastor told me if I didn't start attending church, it would come back threefold, and it did. I didn't go back to church, though. Instead, I moved out of that house. My ex-fiancé and I got back together, bought a condo somewhere a bit further from town, and got married. We both sorta couldn't understand why we separated to begin with. Still can't. Ghost, demon, or what, we blame the house, and we're happy it's behind us. I still can't believe the things that went on there. Hopefully the new owners had better luck. We lived in an old home. I wanted to change my room, so I gutted it. It was a large 14 by 16 with a small alcove to the side. Prior to insulation was corn cob husks, old newspapers, and plaster. I had to sleep in the alcove to the side. One night I was woken up between 2 and 4 a.m. There was someone in my room, sitting at the edge of the window fan, looking around the room. I assumed at the time that it was my mother. I assumed she couldn't sleep and was planning the next steps. My mother smoked, and the figure I saw was holding her hand out, like there was an ashtray. The figure was in a gown, and since my mother wore flannel gowns to bed, I was led to the assumption that, it was my mom. I rolled over and fell back asleep. When I woke, I asked my mom whether she had any new ideas after she was in my room. She told me she wasn't. It left me quite unsettled, although the months after bothered me even more. My compulsion to gut the house continued. When my room was somewhat livable with drywall, I moved forward to my brother's 2 bedrooms. They ended up moving in with me in the interim. One night, again between 2 and 4 a.m., I woke. Between my 2 sleeping brothers, on a clothes basket, sat a wiry, friendly woman. She was smiling. She waved at me. My heart started pumping. I tried to call out to wake my brothers. Both slept right through it. She chuckled at me, and then, poof, she was gone. The next month, another night, I woke and found her right next to me. She was sitting on my brother's mattress, and she was looking down at my face. I asked her to go away. She burst out laughing. Her head went spinning in one direction, her body in another. A pattern to her visits started to appear, usually between the 21st and 22nd of the month, usually between 2 and 4 a.m., on rare occasions a little earlier or later. If I awoke, I wouldn't open my eyes. She became irritated, started setting off toys or radios in my room. I took out the batteries, unplugged equipment. Nothing helped. Devices would still go off. I started staying away those nights, not coming home. Finally, my parents moved me to the main level of the house. For me, the visits ended. My parents eventually sold the house to a contractor who tore it down. The contractor put up a new monster of a home, but it still sits on the same property. I still wonder whether she's there, but she seemed limited in spatial movement, so I don't think the new occupants know about her.